Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday evening edition of the Outer Realm. As you can see, I am solo. I'll explain all about that shortly. We are broadcasting live here on the United Public Radio Network 105.3 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing folks over at Folgers Coffee. And thank you. Could not do it without you. Our newest sponsor, of course, Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, aka Justin Snicker. And that's his voice and music you hear for our intro and outro. He can be found anywhere that's got cool music, including Bandcamp, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, etc., etc. So thank you. Tonight, we do welcome for the very first time the very gifted Nicole Antoinette. She is an amazing, she's just a sweetheart. Honestly, she is. She's an angel communicator, psychic mentor, and the owner and force behind Guiding Echoes. And she will tell you all about that. But before we get to that, we do need to get down to some business. So, news alert, join the members section of UFO Paranormal Radio on YouTube. It's basically brand new. It is now taking members, and that's the only place you're going to find some really interesting content. You're going to find the Gray Zone Uncensored. It's the only place you're going to find the Gray Zone Uncensored. You're going to find old archives. You're going to find stuff that all the hosts are putting together, such as special interviews and maybe some behind-the-scenes stuff. But it's going to be specifically for members only. That's that. Sorry, guys, but I think it's a real treat to do. I have personally done it. Yes, I have. I see the chat is already lighting up. You'll notice I am solo because some dang truck hit a pole outside Amelia's and took out her internet. The nerve. Show night to boot. But anyway, she's going to be in chat. So she's going to be in UFO Paranormal on YouTube. She's going to maybe bounce around over to the Outer Realm Facebook page. But right now I see she's quite active on YouTube. And okay, boo. I know it's a big boo. Anyway, I see we've got Pauline, Mama Bear in there. We've got Amelia, we've got Wayne, Michelle Millens, Doreen, Reedpath, Dave Petrello. God, it's just really filling up. Janie, hello. So yeah, this is great. So Amelia will be in chat to interact with you guys, and she might be able to pop in a few questions for our guest. And I am really looking forward to this because, EC, hello. Dolly, hello. Nicole has just been in a little bit of communication I've had with her, just a real sweetie. She came to my attention from a dear friend, Alexandra Holzer. So yeah, you guys have all seen her on the show a couple of times before, at least maybe 3, and bringing her back on again because she is also just really delightful. Every now and then, you just meet people who are like part of the little chicks club, and that's definitely Alexandra, and absolutely, I think Nicole could be one of our little chiquitas. So Nicole Antoinette is a psychic medium, angel communicator, psychic mentor. She was raised in a strict, abusive, and religious household in which psychic gifts and abilities were viewed as evil and demonic. Pretty much heard that story a few times, and my gosh, guys, We have to let that go, honestly. I'm so grateful that things are a little bit more open minded in my household. As an adult, Nicole discovered her psychic gifts and made it her mission to not only share her gifts with the world, but to teach others how to accept, embrace, and enhance their own psychic abilities. She has created several online courses, such as Easy Steps to Strengthen Your Clairvoyance, Embracing Heaven, Connect with Your Deceased Friends and Family, and Psychic Mediumship Through Chakras. Right off the bat, I know I'm just like digging this girl. She's just awesome. And we're going to wait for her to come on in. I want to get rid of Facebook now because I'm going to be hearing binging the whole way through. Hello, Ellen from Chicago. Hello, Amanda. My gosh, romper room with a magic mirror. Dare I even ask, Wayne? Dare I even ask? So, so some things you just don't want to. You don't want to know. So, anyway, please, guys, feel free to put all of your questions and comments in the chat. I can see all 8 platforms right in front of me, and I can see we are filling up on the other platforms as well. So, yeah, Joe, you're just too darn sexy for radio. We know, I know. But thank you for being in chat. And here's our lovely guest right now. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. Thank you. As mentioned, Amelia is not with us, but she is in chat. You'll see her pop up, and I'm sure every now and then she's going to toss a question in from there. But some truck hit a pole outside her house. Dang it, right on show night. So it's like, thanks for that. She goes, hey, she goes, here we go. Here's Amelia. Hello, Nicole. There we go. Yes, Wayne, I know it was a show in the 60s. I just wonder why it showed up in my chat room. That's all. Stupid truck. So you're doing well. We've really been looking forward to bringing you on, and I'm looking forward to hearing all about it. You seem to have grown up in the same sort of environment it's such a familiar story with people in respects to the secret. You don't want to talk about it.
Right.
And ironically, in one of our other chats from the show last night, we had a woman make comments about the guest with respects to his abilities. And she was, I'm guessing, very Christian, and saying that we shouldn't be promoting things like that. That's just not a good thing. And I kind of got the sense that it was a big taboo, with her faith and in her life. So why don't we start off with you, I guess, with your humble beginnings and what it was like for you growing up?
Well, it was not fun.
No, I guess not.
Not at all. So basically, I was born on December 13th on a cold I'm kidding. So
Nice.
I mean, I don't know how far back you want me to go.
No, wherever you want to take us. We'll go back in the way back machine as far as you'd like, girl.
Oh my gosh. So so I was born and raised into a Christian family, Protestant Christianity. Only it wasn't any type of Protestant Christianity I think most people are familiar with. Basically, my parents kind of created their own brand of Christianity and went with that, and they were very abusive, very controlling people. And they used the Bible as a way to condemn and control and to punish, spare the rod, spoil the child type of thing. So, that was a lot of fun.
Wow.
Um,
Oh.
yeah, and so my parents, my mom especially, believed that everything outside of the Bible was demonic, unless of course it was convenient, like a car, or TV,
Not so demonic, right?
Right?
This is a
No, those
gift
are.
from the heavens.
That's
Yes.
right. What a blessing. But everything outside of that, is evil, and so it was very scary growing up in that environment. And so my mom was a Christian, but she was also obsessed with demonology, and from a young age, she would tell me about exorcisms that she heard about on the radio, and it was
Crazy. It's like
yeah,
a oxymoron sort of
yeah,
situation.
yeah,
Wow.
it's really bizarre.
Wow.
So on top of that, mind freak.
As a
Yeah.
little kid, that must have been freaking horrific.
It was pretty bad. So my brother and I were also homeschooled by these people. For me, it was second grade through all of high school, and for my brother, kindergarten through all of high school.
Mm.
And so on top of, being raised by these abusive, super Christian, if you can call it Christian, people, we were lacking a social life. The only social life that we got was at church until they were
Mm.
kicked out, and then we went to another church and they were kicked out. And so,
Wow, did they try to take over? How does one get kicked out of like church? That's not very Christian of them.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, because of their very stringent and closed-minded beliefs, I wasn't able to speak up about a lot of the things that I was experiencing as a kid. And so as a kid, I was very sensitive to spirits, but I didn't understand that's what was going on.
Right.
Because I could sense a spirit, I could feel a presence nearby. And, heaven forbid I tell my mom or dad about it, because they would rebuke it and they would scare the crap out of me.
Nice.
I
Nice.
I would frequently get dreams of the future, dreams that were very allegorical, and those I felt a little more safe sharing, because at least there's a gift of dreams in the Bible, so I
Right.
could
It's
talk
there. We
about
can talk
those a
about
little
it.
bit. Yeah.
Right.
Um, but for the most part, it was very confusing because I didn't have really any adults that I could trust.
Right.
But, when you're a child, you still trust your parents, and you kind of, when they're as abusive as mine, where you kind of walk around them, and,
Mhm.
it's always a guessing game. Like, what can I tell them and what can I not? When you're a kid, you want to share everything with your parents. And,
Yes.
unfortunately, I didn't have a whole lot of adults around me that
Mhm.
I could trust or that I could talk to about such things. And so those were kind of that's the environment that I grew up in. And
Mhm.
once I became an adult, I tried the whole atheism thing, but that didn't work because I definitely believed in something. So
Well, there's something for
there's
sure.
something. Yeah, I don't quite know what it is. Still don't. But yeah, so gave that a shot. Didn't quite work out.
Right.
And eventually I did go back to Christianity for a short while. I was an evangelist, like knocking on people's doors on Tuesdays
Wow.
and inviting them to,
Good for
invite
you.
Jesus Christ into their heart. So
Yeah, you're just a champion after all of that.
I know, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, I figure if the road that I'm on now was wrong, my soul's fine because I turned so many people over in my early 20s. Like,
You're
I've
catching
got
up.
it covered.
I got my karmic points now. Leave me
That's right.
be. That's
That's
right.
right.
You're funny.
I'm good.
Oh,
I
so
can I can summon all the demons I want now. I turn people to Christ. It's all
I'm
good. No, no,
okay. As long as I can get rid of them, I can do it.
that's
Yeah.
right.
I brought you all kinds of people. So I, I have to ask, and again, like Amelia has asked the same thing. Like, again, how does one get kicked out of church? It sounded like, let's face it, you're out there on the streets bringing people over. Just saying, "Oh, come on, like join in
Yeah.
the fun, love and light, Christ. This join the church." So why would they to get rid of their members to me is pretty hardcore. Like they must have been
I
pretty out there.
I don't know the whole story.
You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but when a
No, it's
question
not.
comes up, I have to, I have
It's
to
not even
ask.
that. It's that I really don't know the story because I was a kid or a teenager,
Right,
and so
right,
whatever the
right,
actual reason was, we were asked to leave. I don't know.
right.
I do know that I guess it's the first church that they were asked to leave was because somehow I got found out that my dad was growing pot in our backyard. He was an elder in the church.
I just love it.
Isn't that wonderful? And my brother and I, it was so funny because, like, okay, so when I was a kid,
Right.
there was this one section of the backyard that we were absolutely forbidden to go into. And my parents being abusive, we never asked why you can't. We just knew we would get our butts kicked if we
Right,
disobeyed them, and
right.
somehow they
Yeah.
always knew.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the
So
garden.
yeah, so there was this, exactly. So I didn't know that until I was like, I think 18 or 19, and it was my sister who was like, why we were never allowed in that part of the backyard, right? I'm like, no, I never cared to ask. And she was like, that's where Dad was growing his pot.
The garden.
What? What? Who are these people? So, you grow up in that environment having no idea, thinking mom and dad are perfect. And I mean,
Yeah.
you know that they're not, but still.
Right. No, but
So,
it's you grow up thinking that
right.
they're at least stable.
Right.
Which I'm not
Yeah.
saying, by the way, that you're unstable if you're growing pot. I'm just saying that in the type of environment you lived in that was so
Right.
strict, it was almost, say what or do what we say, not as we do
Oh,
sort of deal,
absolutely.
right?
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in an entirely different situation, like as did my mother. And, we're going back now, but our family was just really open about it. Just like, oh, you have an imaginary friend and set a place at the table. It's just that
Right.
sort of openness, right? So, oh my
See,
gosh,
and my
I mean,
brother had an imaginary friend when he was a kid, and when my mom found out about it, she freaked out. She started rebuking Satan. Like, it was just like, that's how over the top these people were. So it's a very scary environment to grow up in, because it's like we weren't even allowed to have an imagination. Like, it was just
right,
crazy. Not that imaginary friends really are just in your imagination. Obviously, some of them can be spirit guides or spirits or
sure,
whatnot. But yeah, so it was
for sure.
it
Amelia
was
seems to think, did you feel at that point that I must be adopted?
you
It
know,
would
it's
sound much more
funny.
humorous if she was here singing her cute little bubbly voice. But so,
You know what's funny about that is, like, earlier today as I was making dinner, all of a sudden it popped in my head where I was like, I should totally get 23andMe. What if I was switched at birth? That would be the best news of my life.
it's you never know.
You never know.
As
Why
Wayne
not?
says, they shouldn't have been playing with the devil's lettuce. So we're going to have some good ones now. I'm just sure. But Amelia does say that her grandmother was kicked out of church because of her abilities.
Oh, interesting.
And well, we're talking hardcore Italian
Yeah.
also, right? So, wow. So that's yeah, it's almost like do as we say, not as we do.
Right.
That must have been really difficult because you're being told one thing, you're seeing something completely different. So when you
Oh, yeah.
realized you were gifted, you couldn't really go say anything because your mother might have been tried to do an exorcism on you or something if she was getting mad about the imaginary friend. So how did you
Right.
cope with that as a little child, you know? How did little Nicole actually cope with that? This sounds like it should be a movie.
So the way that I coped with it was actually when I'd go to bed at night was when I would talk to my imaginary friends, and I
Right.
would just kind of allow my imagination to go crazy. So going to bed at night was actually one of my favorite times of the day because it meant I was going to be left alone
Right.
and I could just go ahead and fantasize about whatever. So when
Mhm.
you're, 7 years old and you're homeschooled and your parents are crazy and you don't have much of a social life, what else do you have?
Right.
Um, so
Right.
I so that's how I dealt with it. And to be honest, I don't remember a lot about my childhood. So other
Mm.
than, as far as what other coping skills I may have had, I have no idea. I don't
Mhm.
I don't know what else I may have done. It was a very boring environment, outside of the drama, because it's not like, my parents didn't take us out to go play soccer or softball or anything like that. So there
Mm.
was no type of activity outside of that. And my
Mhm.
mom was a house mom who would just talk on the phone all day, or she'd play her guitar and sing. Like, she didn't even spend a whole lot of time with my
It's like
brother and
that.
I.
Wow.
Yeah, not that I remember.
Your parents sound like they were like almost like, like flower children. Just go pot and play the
Well,
guitar and sing.
flowers
Yeah,
too
I
nice
love
of a
it.
term for them, but yeah, they were
No,
more
no,
like
I'm
weed
sure
children.
not. I'm sure not. Okay, here's a tidbit for fans out there that my mother feels compelled to share with everybody in chat. Doing this only one 5 seconds. Michelle was kicked out of church when she was 5 because she was so disruptive. Thank you for that. And Amelia, yes, little Michelle, Princess of the Dark Realm. Okay, it's out. It's done. See, I can laugh at myself too.
There you go. There you go.
But they're here. Honestly, now here's some actual questions. Do you know if you, or if your mother rather and father were gifted, and that's why they were so over the top when your gifts came to light?
Yes. My mom.
Question, Wayne.
My mom, I believe, is actually a gifted medium who is very afraid of her gifts and talents. And so
Okay.
when I was, I don't remember the exact age, somewhere in my 20s, she had finally been, well, okay, yeah, in my early 20s, she was diagnosed as a bipolar, and later they changed that to borderline personality.
Oh,
And she also had bouts of schizophrenia and depression. So she was just, she had a lot going on. But what was interesting to me was the schizophrenia, because later on when she would talk to me about it, I would ask her, like, well, what is it that you're hearing? And she's like, well, I hear a couple. I hear a man and a woman, and they talk all day. I'm like, well, what do they talk about? She's like, just really boring stuff. I'm like, well, what kind of stuff? And she's like, well, one time she didn't want to cook, and so she asked her husband if they could order pizza, and he said, yeah, that's fine. She's like, so I had to hear them talk about what type of pizza toppings and everything they were going to have. I'm like, that does not sound demonic.
no, it
You know,
sounds like
it's
you've tapped into yeah. I mean, what is that?
tapped into
Dimensional?
something.
Is that? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I don't know
Wow.
what that is. And then so she'll talk about how, she told me how she heard this couple all the time, or frequently I should say. And another thing that's very interesting is she talked about how she would hear voices coming out running water or fans, basically white noise. And what's interesting is
Hmm.
that white noise and the sound of a fan and water, sometimes spirits do use those as
It's
conduits to be able
true.
to talk. Yeah.
It's true. Yes.
So as she, as I mean, I haven't spoken to my mom in over 10 years, but back then when my abilities were opening up and I was starting to embrace them quietly, because even as a young adult, I wasn't sharing much with them.
Mhm.
The more she would tell me, the more I realized that she had some gifts, and because of the pressure that she was getting from the church and everything, she was just very afraid of them. And she also did have some terrifying experiences as a young
I
child
bet.
with her ability to
I
see
bet.
things. Yeah. So she
Mhm.
saw some really crazy stuff in her house.
Well, let's face it, you don't just take up reading about demonology and exorcism unless there's something that prompts you into that direction.
Right. Yeah.
So it
Very
makes you
true.
wonder, what exactly did you see in that house?
Yeah. Um, so I don't know what all she saw, because she never talked about that, but she did tell us
Mhm.
about some of the crazy stuff that her sisters had seen and her brother. And there was like a little girl in a blue dress that would float in the kitchen sometimes. It, scared the grandkids. I'm glad I never saw it.
Right?
But
Nice.
as
Great.
an adult now, I would be all over it. I'd be like, hey, who are you? Don't
Right.
come. But as a kid, I would have been terrified.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
so yeah, so I think that on my mom's side, there's definitely a lot of strong gifts.
Mhm.
But on my dad's side, none that I know of.
Okay.
So yeah, it does seem like it very much comes from that side of the family.
Well, Amelia says, did you share your gifts and experiences with your friends? Amelia, it's really weird having you host from the chat room, but I'm just, but there we have it.
Well, not that I remember. Again, I don't remember a lot about childhood. Um,
Mhm.
and I think one of the reasons for it, there's two reasons. One is that it was so isolated. Um,
Mhm.
And I didn't have friends outside of church and
Who
the
gave
neighborhood
them
kids. Well, I did have a
friends?
job actually as a radio host with a radio station called Radio Oz, so that was fun, but that was like twice a month, and that was
Right.
when I was in my older teens. So I don't remember having any friends that I would have spoken to about any of that stuff. I don't think
Mhm.
I did.
Right.
If I did, I don't remember,
Mhm.
but
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Here's another one for you. Rolling in already. Why do you think some spirits use liquids, air as conduits to communicate? Dave thinks it's because it's an already established energy system, so it gives an energy boost and makes it easy for them to come through, which makes sense to me. What are your thoughts on that? Or do you want me to leave it up so you can see it? Yeah.
I think so. I think that's correct, because we already know that water is a massive conduit for spirit. It's one of the reasons why psychics and paranormal investigators especially need to be sure that you have your water near you at all times. Stay hydrated. Get your
Yes.
electrolytes in.
You do, because don't you feel like you're completely parched when you leave an investigation?
Yes.
I would feel like I could just like stick my head in the toilet and drink
Yeah,
forever.
right?
You know? Yeah.
I don't know about the toilet part, but I feel
No, but
you,
you
girl.
know, you know what I mean? You just drink anything is what I'm saying. Like,
Right. Yeah. So we
yeah.
already know that water is a conduit. And if you have
Yes.
moving water on top of that, well, anything that moves is building up energy.
Right.
And the same thing with a fan, so that's
Yes.
building up a lot of energy, and that energy is going out into the air, out into the ether, which we can't see. And that creates the ability for them to harness that energy so they can present themselves in any way they want. So if there's a clairsentient in the room, then that spirit is able to latch on to that emotional state of the clairsentient, so they can start working with them that way, sharing
Right.
an emotional state. Or if it's a being that's practiced in showing up whatever way he or she wants, then they're able to do that. So I do think that that's why they're able to also use it very easily as kind of like a one-way radio.
Right. No,
Talk
I
to us,
agree.
because it's feeding that energy to them.
I agree. I live pretty well in Niagara Falls, and we hear the falls are really not that far. And on some nights, yeah, we stream out of New Orleans, but I actually am in Canada. And some nights the falls, they're just so powerful. You could hear them. And it's like constant voices just coming in.
Oh,
And
wow.
I would lay there going, "Are you kidding me right now?" It was nonstop talking. And it's just like, oh my gosh, like old. And you question yourself, because like old radio shows or old radio
Yeah.
broadcasts. And next thing you know, there's couples like fighting and talking. And I'm just going like, shut up.
Noise canceling headphones.
Oh my God, something. I know. Now it's just frequency. That's, I think, the downfall of living so close to such a powerful force of nature,
right?
Being water to boot. It's just like the frequency sometimes is deafening here.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Oh gosh. So, okay, here we go. Did you have any terrifying experiences as a child?
I did. It's not one I talk about very often, and it's not what most people would expect. So,
Right.
one night when I was a child, I don't remember how old I was, 5, 6, 7,
Right.
somewhere
Wow.
around there. I was lying in bed, and there was a stream of light coming over me as I was lying down. So, groggy little Nicole kind of looked up like, what? And I have a mirror, full-size mirror in my bedroom, and there was light coming from the mirror. So it's not like it was being reflected from anywhere else. It was light
Coming
coming
out
from,
of the mirror.
yeah.
Okay.
So I was curious, and I got up and I went to go look, and as I approached the mirror, I saw this. I almost don't want to talk about it because it still freaks me out. It's nothing scary,
sorry.
exactly, but it's still scary. So there was this hallway in the doorway full of all these doors, and on the edges of all the doors was all this light, and this hallway went on for infinity. Like I didn't see an end to it. And when you're a kid, you don't really understand anything. This part of the brain isn't fully developed yet, so I don't know what I was thinking, but I put my hand on the glass, and one of my fingers actually went through. It was very cold, so I snapped my hand back, and I think at that point, I mean, I don't remember all of it exactly because it's not like a memory I choose to go back to very often. But I don't know if I thought I was dreaming up into that point. Like, I don't really know where my headspace was.
It just
I just
seemed really
remember,
surreal.
yeah. And then,
Yeah.
but once my finger went in there, and it was super cold, like ice cold. It's like I woke up and I snapped my hand back, grabbed it, and ran to my parents' room and was crying and screaming and trying to explain to them what happened. And of course, they thought it was a bad dream or something like that. And,
Mhm.
I don't remember us talking about it again, but again, I don't remember much of my childhood.
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean, I don't remember seeing ghosts or spirits. If that did happen, I blocked it
Mhm.
out. I more or less like felt them and sensed them that way. I think the scariest thing in my house were my parents, actually. So it's like those were the terrifying experiences.
Right. Yeah.
But
I
as
guess
far
they
as
had the potential for sure.
but as
Yeah.
far as something supernatural,
Mm.
that's something that happened to me when I was very young. So
It's
that
it's
was scary.
crazy because mirrors are said to be, portals,
Yes.
in certain conditions. It can be portals. Or, as Dolly says, out of body experience, perhaps.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
Could have been.
that's kind of freaky. That's kind of freaky. Oh,
Yeah.
hey, Lisa Marie. People are still coming in. So basically you're making it through childhood. You're trying to communicate this. Your friends are limited and
Yes.
you can't talk to your parents. How did you deal with all this? This is sort of it's really difficult. Like I grew up opposite. I was just told to be selective about who I spoke to because some people would just think you're a freakazoid, like,
Right.
devil worshiper, don't do it. And
Sure. Yeah, so I think that, as a kid, you just kind of go along with whatever you're taught and whatever
Mhm,
you're told. And so, you're in that type of environment, you're very much groomed for whatever your parents have in mind for you at that age and at that time. Um,
mhm,
and so I did watch a lot of TV. I read a lot. Oh my gosh, I read so many books. I loved to read as a kid. So it was probably and a teenager. So that's how I coped with it. You know what's weird? My parents actually let me read Stephen King. So they wouldn't let me watch a lot of things on TV. But like I would go
great.
to the library and bring home like Stephen King and it was like, okay, that's cool. It's like, what is
Oh, this
wrong with
is
you people?
cool. We can't even
But
talk about like, okay, right
yeah,
on.
right.
Right.
Um So I think watching things like Star Wars and things like that, where there's almost like a psychic sense or at least force, like you can almost live vicariously through that
Right.
sort of thing. And, movies like The Craft when that was big. Um,
Right.
so I think that's probably how I coped was just watching and reading what I could.
And learning,
And
maybe.
yeah, and just feeling like, okay, I know this is fantasy. I know this isn't real, but there's something to this. So there was that sense of maybe someone or something understanding. And still, even if it was a fantasy, I think it was giving me some type of comfort. And
Mhm,
also, like, I just found it all fascinating. Like, I thought psychics and mediums and ghosts and spirits and all of that were tremendously fascinating. And I've
mm,
always thought that. And I always wanted to pursue it, even as a kid, but you're taught it's evil. So there's also that fear.
yes.
Um, but then, as an adult, one of the ways that I broke away from that was actually through meditation. So in my mid 20s, I went through an unfortunate situation where I lost my job and
Mhm,
I had a condo at the time and the condo was going into foreclosure and so it was a really crappy situation. Um, and I couldn't afford to go to therapy and get help for the level of depression that I was in.
mhm,
So I was in this chat room online, and someone was like, "Well, why don't you try meditating?" They gave me this resource to a website called meditainment.com, which is still around. They still have great meditations.
oh, very
Um,
cool.
yeah. So they were telling me how that can help with anxiety and depression to give it a shot. And so this is so sad. So like I found the courage to do this. I was so afraid I was going to get demon possessed because that's what
Aw,
my parents had, again, one of the things they taught you is
yeah,
that it's through
that's
meditation that people
terrible.
become possessed. So I remember being really scared. I sat down in my living room. I loaded up the meditation. I was like, I gotta try something. Like, I
Mhm,
gotta try. That's how bad my depression was. I was literally willing, not willing, but like chancing that, I might have a really scary encounter with something horrible. But it was like,
right,
I've got to do something about this depression. So I
right,
ended up doing this meditation where you're walking down this beach and it's very tranquil and very peaceful. And at no point in that guided meditation were you supposed to meet someone in the meditation, but I did. I met my first spirit guide. I met this
Oh.
man walking, and he had a dog with him, and I remember that I loved the dog. I was so excited when this dog comes running at me, and
Aw.
I'm like, "Puppy!" You know? But
Aw.
what's looking back at that, what's fascinating to me was how not just that my spirit guide came in and that it was very smart of them to bring a dog into that meditation with me to break the ice immediately because I wasn't going to
Just
sense any
ease you
breach.
into it.
That's right.
Right.
But the level of detail that I saw in that visualization,
Mhm.
now I know that that is not normal. So I was able to visualize quickly. I was able to get into a meditative state quickly. And the
Mhm.
fact that I was able to get there when I was scared, that
Right.
somehow I got into that was actually pretty amazing. So I continued to do that meditation, and sometimes the guy was there and sometimes he wasn't. And that's kind of how the whole doorway into that other spiritual path
Mhm.
began to open up. And the mediumship wouldn't open up for probably another 5 or 6 years after that point. But yeah,
Mhm.
so that's how I kind of got on this path and was able to
Mhm.
steer clear of the other one.
Yeah, it's kinda scary. Do you find every now and then that they tend to cross? Because I mean, getting into, paranormal investigating, if you get kinda yanked into that with Mike, thanks, Mike, right? You know, you're going to sometimes end up like, I know I filmed in places that were supposed to be very benign. Next thing
Hmm.
you know, you're there, and it's like, "This is not benign at all," and the
Right,
people sometimes they just are used to living in a suppressed situation and they don't go
right.
beyond that.
Yeah. Yeah, when I visited the Hinsdale house and even Mineral Springs, there was a lot of just really um heavy energies
Mm,
there.
right.
And I broke down and cried a couple times at Hinsdale House, because there
Mm,
was a being there that was really upset over something, and I could feel it like welling up in my chest, and it was overwhelming. And then over at Mineral Springs Hotel in Illinois, there was just a lot of really messed up energies that I was picking up on in scenarios there. And so
mm,
so it does get hard because I'm HSP as it is, highly
mm,
sensitive person.
right.
So I'm hyper aware of my surroundings pretty much all the time. And
Mhm,
so being very sensitive emotionally and everything on top of that, when I go into different locations where there is that very heavy energy and there are those more depressed spirits or confused spirits, and they start intertwining with my energy, that can be very difficult. And it takes for me, it can take a few days to kind of shake it off.
mhm.
It takes a
Yeah, I
while.
I can
Yeah.
see that, I can see that. It's not for everyone. It's got to be difficult if you're that sensitive and you're going into a location, for example, where, like, you feel you see there's, let's say, a child spirit, because I'm a real sop when it comes to child spirits, but you're in a location that they're there to bring people in to investigate. They don't want their
Yeah.
spirits moved on. I find that really, really hard. Do you have trouble with things like that? You just kinda secretly move them on?
I don't
Mm,
I have a real problem with the lack of integrity that a lot of people have in the paranormal field. Like, I have a real problem with that.
right.
And if people are wanting to keep the souls of anyone trapped, whether it is a child
Thank you.
or an animal or a person or a woman who was
Mhm.
blundered to death, I think that's horrible. I think it's
Thank you.
unethical. I think it is cruel. I think it's sociopathic. I
Mhm.
don't like it at all.
Mhm.
But, so when you're wanting to keep things there and you're telling people not to help these spirits, my response is, I do what I want. know? Like, if I wanna talk to this
Yes.
spirit, you're not gonna
Yeah,
know I'm talking to the spirit because
exactly.
they're telepathic.
That's
And
right. The
if they
spirit
need
gone, right.
yeah,
No, it
so
is really difficult.
yeah.
It is really
So
difficult.
I'm not gonna ask someone's permission to talk to a spirit.
I know. It
I'll
it
ask
is
this
hard.
it is.
It is really hard. We've helped researchers who've run into trouble with, negative things, but yet they just finished telling you, well, there's a spirit here that was there. And I'm like, so that spirit should end up in trouble? What did you
Right.
do about it?
Yeah.
And why are you messaging me now?
Right. That's the big one, huh? What do you expect me to do about it?
It is. It's really, really maddening. Okay, I'm going to read off some comments for those who are
Okay.
only listening tonight and who aren't actually watching, because we have people around the world who don't just watch. Great point. Sometimes the energy is oppressive, but people have been living there for so long, they don't even realize it might not be them that's doing it, but rather something in the environment. Yeah, I guess you just get used to it, right? So, uh, Wayne, oh, when I'm in a benign place, I start quietly humming Run for the Exit, not because it's not benign. That's true. People
Yeah.
have said to me, you hum when something malevolent comes into space. I'm like, I don't pay attention to what I do. You just kind of just zone out and I hum. But then it's like I'm humming just because I'm got a tune in my head and people think, what's going on? You know what? I don't know.
Like Beastie Boys is stuck in my head. I don't know what to tell
So,
you.
I know. It's that one annoying song that keeps playing itself out.
Right.
Amelia, I have a difficult time understanding people who leave them there. Yeah, we've talked about that too on the show. I don't question how people want to do the investigations or people who, as a medium can go into locations and not do much about it. It's really hard. People have these locations. Sometimes it's their livelihood.
Right.
It is really difficult. It's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah.
Lucas, how do you guys feel when psychic abilities come in all of a sudden? I will leave that to you. There we go.
Overwhelmed.
That's for you. Overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed. Like, what the what? Especially if it's someplace you don't expect. Like it's not someplace that's supposed to be haunted. You're just like at a freaking bookstore and all of a sudden everything starts lighting up and you're like, am I in danger? Should I leave? Am I supposed to just talk to someone? Like, what is going on?
Right.
Yeah, because I think, well, also when you become, I think, a more developed psychic, I think that you're able to decide when it's on and when it's off. So if you
Yeah, I
decided
can
that
switch
it's,
off.
yeah. So if you decided that it's off and all of a sudden it turns on, for me, and when I'm done, Michelle, I'd love to hear your experience, what it feels like for you. But for me, there's instantly a sense of, I want to say anxiety at first, because it's like,
Right.
okay, I did not turn this on. What just happened?
Right.
And I will, depending on the situation, either lean into it because there might be a spirit nearby that wants to talk or needs help or whatever the case is. Or it could also be that, at that point in time, your angels or guides decided, hey, remember that thing you prayed about 3 months ago? We've got the answer now. Like, thanks, dude.
Right.
So I'll pay.
Thanks.
So yeah, so I'll
We
pay
would have
attention.
told you, but you had the switch off.
Right.
Something like that. You snooze, you lose, right? So
So I'll kind of lean into it and just kind of quickly investigate it, get a little curious about it. And
right.
then after that, usually I can turn it back off and go about my day, or I'll leave it on just to, especially if I feel like it's turned on as a way to protect me, which I think has happened before in the past where I lived in a really dicey situation with some roommates that were not on the up and up, and everything just kept turning on at like random times. And then one day out of the blue, I saw an image of the house completely shot up. And at that point I was like, I'm out. Like I didn't even give them notice. I just packed and left. I was like, I'm out. I paid my rent. I'm gone. And
Yes.
I mean, I don't think that ever happened to that house. I have no idea, but that vision was definitely got my attention where it was like, okay, there's danger. Like we've been trying to tell you there's danger. You need to get out. And so
Right.
it worked.
Yeah,
But
so
what
you
does it
paid
feel like?
attention.
But what does it feel like for you, Michelle?
I have to tell you, I was considerably older. I mean, I've had memories of seeing dead people from very early on. But I was considerably older when I actually learned how that I could actually shut my abilities off. I'm thinking I have been a darn tortured soul all this time.
Aw.
No, but just because you hear things at night, and my daughter went through it. She was like, it was really strong at 15. I just remember her in the middle of the night saying, would y'all just shut the hell up? And I was like, oh, she wanted to switch off. I switched off the the clairaudience part of it, like hearing them all the time, which made it more difficult because now you're hearing things, you're trying to interpret what it is as opposed to full on. But I think that's where it started for me. And I didn't know enough to go the extra mile to just be able to go on and off. For me, I think it's very quiet for me. I know people are saying, even in chat, like they feel anxiety. I don't feel anxiety. I just know that if there's something I need to worry about, somehow it's like I call it my spidey senses.
Yeah.
Somehow everything goes up and it's just automatically on, and I'm okay, what's going on?
Right.
Or you get somebody who'll message you or something, and it's just there's triggers. Like this is a haunted house, so something goes on. It's like, but you become sort of numb to it because you know what the spirits do. You know how the house reacts to, let's say, people. This house has the whole freaking alarm has gone on because people have been on the property. So you're sort of always on high alert. But I think for me now, it's just a mere thought of just on off. It's without even. It just seems to happen when I need it to.
Right. Yeah.
So I've been fortunate that way. Maybe here's a way maybe you can explain. Lucas H., I don't know how to control it.
So the way that you learn how to control it is to develop it. You have to learn how to develop it first. So if you don't learn how to develop it, then it's always going to go on and on and on whenever it wants.
Right.
And it will be overwhelming. And so when I talk about developing your psychic abilities, I mean that you're learning how to make them stronger. And so that can be through meditation, it could be through tarot cards. Really, it's through whatever spiritual practice feels right for you. And it should be something that's daily. And the more that you take, I think, control over your own spiritual life and your spiritual path, the more that your other clairs and psychic senses and intuition actually follow suit. So you'll notice that as you develop your psychic abilities, as you embrace a spiritual practice that feels really good to you, you'll just make it your intention for your clairs to, mellow out. I wouldn't say shut down. I don't think they ever shut down completely, but mellow out, where you don't have to be hypersensitive. And then, you can also just set the intention that you want your psychic abilities to kick on because, maybe you're in an investigation or you're going to do a reading for someone, or you just want to, see what you pick up from the ether. And so that's really how you control it. And I don't think that you have to go through a whole practice of learning how to zip up your chakras or anything like that. Although, that can be helpful if you're more visual and you like working with the chakra system. I know people who like to do that where they, envision their chakras in like a raincoat. It zips up.
That's cool.
So some people kind of I think some people need that signal. They need that visualization to kind of signal to themselves and their body that, okay, we're closed for business right now. So there's a lot of different ways you can learn to control it. But again, I think that's the best way is when you learn how to strengthen it, you also learn by proxy, I think, how to shut it down.
It's like anything, you just have to work at it.
Yeah.
Tamara, do you ever get overwhelmed when you are around large crowds? That's a good question.
I do, but I don't think it's because of my psychic senses. I think I'm just like claustrophobic. I'm only 4'11" and 3/4, and so I get like pushed around in crowds very easily, and that's a little intimidating. But there's certain crowds that I love. Like I love the crowds at an amusement park because I love amusement parks. And there's just like usually a pretty happy vibe there. Like everyone's happy, everyone's goofy, everyone's laughing. Like those type of crowds are fun. Concert crowds, not so much because I don't really like being around the alcoholics and all the drugs that get like that. That just feels to me.
Well, it's an energy thing too, right?
It is.
We absorb that, I think.
Yeah. So it really depends on the crowd and the situation. So, if it's a happy crowd, I'm good with that.
Loving that.
But there's certain crowds where, for example, like at a bar with a bunch of drunk people. Like, I'm not really comfortable there. So,
Right.
yeah.
No, I can understand that. And I think to go on with that and a little bit on what we were talking about with abilities and switching on and off would be grounding.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think if you ground your energy, then you stand a much better chance of having things latch on
Right.
or be really overwhelming. But I find even with people, like just people energy can be really bad.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, I want to show you something real quick because this was really helpful for me. So, for people who don't know how to shut down their abilities when they're feeling really over anxious, or if you're just out in a crowd and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I learned this technique that's actually really fantastic. So, if for some reason you're too frazzled to ground, the technique is you take your non-dominant hand, spread it out like a starfish. You get your index finger from your dominant hand, and what you do is you trace your hand. So as you're going up here, you breathe in. As you come down, you breathe out. You breathe in, you breathe out. So every time you're moving your finger up, one of your fingers, you breathe in, and when you bring it down, you breathe out. And that gets you back into your body. And if
Oh.
you focus on your finger, on tracing your finger, it just gives you something else to focus on, and you're taking control of your breath, you're taking control of your energy.
Mhm.
And after just like a few sessions, or not a few sessions, just after tracing like a few fingers,
Mhm.
well, if you have more than 5, you have a problem.
You're an alien.
But after
If you have
going
more than 5, you're a freaking alien. You
no,
probably have much better techniques than what we're
you
talking about.
probably do. Like, I want to see you shuffle cards.
Right.
But once you get to like the third or fourth finger, you're gonna feel so much better. And
Right.
if you do a second round, you'll probably feel relaxed. So,
Right.
yeah, it was a mindfulness teacher that taught me that. And so even now when I'm starting to feel like really upset or overwhelmed or whatever emotions come out,
Mhm.
that's something that I'll do. And it's something you can easily do in public because it just looks like maybe just like a little nervous thing. Like
Right.
no one's gonna be standing in line
The
with you and
little
be like,
tick
why are
thing
you
is like
touching your fingers? Like, no one's
you
gonna care.
might.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're living in hostile times right now. I don't know.
As long as you've got your gloves on, you're fine.
Exactly. No, I love that. That's awesome. I love that. So where does like what was your first experiences with angels? What made you decide like I want to be in communication with angels? I mean, aside from the obvious, like who wouldn't? But but again, it doesn't just happen. Some people actually go the other way, and
Right.
start getting into dark arts because you have these entities who are very willing to
Oh, sure.
communicate with you, you know. So what was the trigger for you? What made you think that no, this is something that works for me. I love them. And I just,
Yeah, angels are
whatever.
great to work with. So,
Yeah.
a lot of that has to do with the different books that I was reading on, more spiritual topics, new agey topics outside of Christianity, and angels were coming up frequently in the different books that I was reading.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one day, again with the meditation, I decided to do another guided meditation, and this one was to meet, I think it was Archangel Gabriel,
Mm-hmm.
and she was a lot of fun. And she, in the meditation I was doing, she was like really. She was just happy. She was fun. She was laughing. I was just like, "Oh my God, I made a new best friend."
Somebody I can talk to.
Yeah, and
Understand me. Right.
right. And so after I
Right.
came out of that, I just knew that I could still feel her near me, and I just knew that
Right.
that was an energy I wanted to continue to work with. But
Right.
also, I think another reason that I'm drawn to angels, because I kind of go back and forth with them. And when I say back and forth, I mean like I'll be really into working with them for a while, and then I'll kind of fade out and maybe work more with magic or guides, and then I'll go back to angels, and then I'll go to something else,
Right.
and then I go back to angels.
Right.
Then I just go back to angels. But angels
Right.
have been very consistent in my life because even as a Christian, when I was in my Christian days, I felt my angels around me. And when I tune into them, like I can feel them now. But back then they were a very present force, and I could sense them, and I knew that they were near me, and I knew that they were tall. I knew that they were enormous.
Right.
And there was this one time where, again, as a Christian, the lock to my house, the lock to the front door, decided it was going to stay locked when I was trying to unlock it with the right key. So that wasn't fun. And
No.
I was sitting there like, why isn't this working? Getting upset. And then all of a sudden I stop and I take a deep breath and I'm like, okay, Archangel Michael or whoever, whatever my angels are listening, can you please, 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 please unlock this door for me? Boom!
Wow.
It was
Who needs a
unlocked. I was
key?
able to get into my
Who needs a key?
Who needs
When
a
you've got an
key?
archangel, right?
So that was actually a really powerful experience for me because you're not supposed to talk to angels. You know, as a Christian, you're not even supposed to talk to angels. It's considered praying to them. So that was the first time I just asked an angel for help and got an immediate response and immediate help. And so that's something that always stuck with me. And I remember one time, like after I was doing my own little Bible study, reading the Bible, taking notes, I just kind of stopped and I was like, angels, I know I'm not supposed to talk to you, but I really want to thank you for, being in my life and helping me. And, and so I think that angels, because I connected with angels before I ever did the mediumship with other spirits. And so I think that angels for me were a safe transition. They were a safe transition into everything else. But it was really through those guided meditations that I started working with them more consciously and consistently.
Do you think it's because you felt safe in a way?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, they do feel very safe to me, because again, I know that they're enormous and they're fun and they're not all fun. There's one that I know who's one of my angels and his name is Logos and he's like such a serious mofo and I'm like, dude, like, can you show an ounce of compassion? You don't, yeah.
Right?
He's
They're not all love and light.
No, they're
They're
not.
pretty badass.
They are. Well, angels have been known to draw blood. It's all throughout different, books of history. But yeah, so Logos is he's very straightforward. He doesn't beat around the bush. If he's got something to say to me, he'll say he doesn't care if he hurts my feelings. And I've told him a few times, I'm like, yeah, I don't even know if I like you. Can you, I know.
You're not my friend today.
Yeah. Like, can you tone it down a bit? Can you try to have some compassion? Go talk to one of my angels and ask for advice on how to talk to me before you talk to me.
Right. Did you seriously just say that to me right now?
I know, right? Do you have any bedside manners?
Right. No, apparently not, like there are guides like that too. And it's really difficult because you're actually looking to these beings to guide you.
Right.
And, I had one, I thought it was pretty darn hysterical with the comment I made, and he just looked at me with this straight face. And I had another friend who was with me, who was in medium. He goes, I don't think he likes that. I says, I just don't think he has a sense of humor. And he was just all frowny. Yeah. And it was like, I get stuck with you.
Yeah. Right?
So it is really difficult. It's enough to deter somebody from wanting to make that kind of contact, So
yeah. Well, fortunately, there are enough fun ones out there too.
Thankfully, it makes up for the frowny ones. They're all scowlies,
Yeah.
Erica Farmer, how do you keep your energy from getting so depleted? Do you ever feel like your energy is depleted for long periods of time?
Yeah. So as far as keeping the energy depleted, I go through bouts of depression. I've been very open about that on my Facebook page and YouTube. So I don't know how you keep from being depleted, because I think when you're psychic or you're sensitive or you're empathic or whatever fancy schmancy label you want to give yourself, the truth is we all live in a sea of energy.
Yes.
And when you're psychic, you're open to that energy quite frequently. And even when you have shut down your clairs, meaning that you've decided that you're not going to absorb and identify the psychic information coming to you, you're still in this ocean of energy.
Mhm.
And so, as a psychic, I think when we open up to do a reading or open up to even send healing energies to other people, we start blending with whatever is around us because it's part of where we get our energy.
Mhm.
And I think that that can be um, how we get depleted because the energy right now of the world with all the interesting things that have been happening have been very conflicting and chaotic. And the world's always been chaotic as it is, but there are seasons when that is heightened and when it's worse. I mean, if we're honest, there's times when it's worse. And
Mhm.
so when you're absorbing energy and even when you're giving energy, because when you do a reading you are doing an energy trade, um, that can be very exhausting. And so the best thing to do is to recognize when you're headed for burnout, recognize the signs of it, because
Mhm.
psychic burnout and compassion fatigue is a thing.
Right.
And when that happens, you need to give yourself space to work through that. So,
Mhm.
whatever self care means to you, and I don't think self care means go get a pedicure. I think self care means,
I
you
don't
know,
know.
yeah, I mean, it can be,
It
but
can be
self
pretty nice.
it can be. But you want
Yes.
something that's like long standing. So,
Yes.
you might want to stop and be like, okay, what kind of foods have I been nourishing my body
Mhm.
with? Or have I been neglecting the nourishment because I'm
Mm.
eating for comfort? Are
Right.
you getting enough sleep?
Mhm.
What are you thinking about before you go to sleep? So you really just kind of have to build up a wall of, I want to say almost a wall of positivity, so that you can keep yourself from feeling that depleted.
Mhm.
Because if you're feeling depleted, there's obviously something off in your life, and sometimes you may not have any control over what
That's
that
true.
thing is. So
Right.
you just kind of have to work through it, get
Mhm.
through it, ask your guides and angels for help. If you know Reiki, you can self Reiki. You can, if you've got friends who can send you energy, you ask for that. But just
Mhm.
also know that everyone gets depleted at some point. Like everyone
Right.
goes through those seasons where their gifts seem to shut down for a while, or everyone goes through that season when they're not feeling particularly compassionate towards the human race. Like it doesn't
Right.
matter if you consider yourself a light worker or whatever it is,
Right.
everyone goes through it and it's totally okay. It's called
Right.
being human.
Yes.
So just notice when you're depleted. Give yourself time to stay that way. I know that sounds
Mhm.
weird, but give yourself a few days to stay that way and just
Mhm.
lean into it, because that's how you also recharge. And then after a few days of leaning into it and resting and doing what you have to do, then you start rebuilding purposely from
Mhm.
there. So those are the tactics that's the tactic that kind of worked for me, where I'm just like, all right, I feel like crap and I'm just going to embrace this for a few days
Put your
because
feet
it's
up,
like,
back off, phone off the hook.
yeah,
That's it. Leave me alone. Lots of water. There we
that's
go.
right. Lots of water.
Wayne says, I think it's difficult to not get depleted because we're energy beings that are temporarily in a physical form. So
Yep.
when we're experiencing these amazing beings, it's bound to drain us. I think
Yes,
so.
I think
I
so
think
too.
so. Amelia did have a question. I have to go back into the machine here, the way back machine, I was going to say. Nicole, do you also see or communicate with angels of death?
That's a good question. I don't know if I would call them that exactly, but there have been times where I will communicate with, okay, well, let me back up. We all have angels. I believe we all have angels. And
Hmm.
when we cross over, we still have those same angels that we're working with. So there
Hmm.
have been times when I have been working with a spirit on the other side, and one of their angels will come up. Like one time I had I had a spirit on the other side that was not talking to me, and this typically happens when they were shy, quiet, or private in real life. They will take that to the other side. So
Yes.
I had a spirit on the other side, and I'm trying to deliver messages to his loved one who is still here, and I was getting really frustrated, and all of a sudden the angel popped up and he's like, he's just like this sometimes. And I was like,
Okay. So in other words, he's not talking.
yeah, I
So,
mean, what do you say to that? Like an actual angel pops up out of nowhere. It's like he's just like that sometimes. Like, okay, well, can
so are
you
we going
help?
to converse? Are you going to translate? Are you
Yeah,
ventriloquist?
and
What can
and
we
he
do?
did. Yeah, the angel did. The angel like was able to get him to start, talking, and
Right.
it was the angel that actually I was communicating with the angel instead of that spirit. But it was just it's so funny the things that you run into as a medium because it's like no one prepares you for this.
Right. And it's true. It's not as cut and dry as
No,
people think it is.
it's not.
It's a lot more, there's a lot more to it. I've had spirits come through and they're trying to tell you things. My grandfather was notorious for it, and he cheated a lot. When I say that, I mean, no, I mean he comes through and he's trying to give you information that you're not really supposed to have. And then there's a woman in the background who I am assuming is his guide saying, "Stop that," and she's scolding him, and he's trying really quick to get extra stuff
That
in.
is
And I'm
so
just like,
funny. That is so funny.
you just sit there and going, wow, this is the thing. Like you are being scolded. I think you need to stop talking or talk
Mhm.
faster.
Talk faster.
Whatever it is, man.
It's like she can't hurt me.
Exactly. He's trying really hard. But it made sense because my grandmother used to visit with him for many years. He would come in, and my psychic side of the family, he would come in to sit with her at night. But this woman was there, and my grandmother used to talk about her, and she'd be just like, "Oh, that woman was with him," but it was as his guide because I think she had obviously my grandfather was habitual and giving out information he
That
wasn't
is
supposed
so
to.
funny.
Oh yeah, because she'd say to him, "Okay, we have to go now," and my grandmother would resent this. We have to go now because probably talking too much,
Right.
and it was just that was it. So it's like carry that right on like 25 years later. Um, John Edwards. Hi, John. Talk about the angels with red wings. It's a reacquiring vision. There we go. Oh,
I'm
I'll put it
I
back up. There you go. Red
I
wings.
don't I don't know about angels with red wings. That's a new one to me. Um,
Okay. All
yeah,
right. That's interesting. Well, there you go.
there you
Feel
go.
free to enlighten us in there and pass that information along, and we'll put it up there. So, um, okay. Here we go. Lucas, has anyone caught yourself or themselves, I'm assuming, saying, I want to go home, but you just don't know where home is? Yep. I think that's people, it's that sense of loss, I think that people feel.
Yeah.
And we just don't know where that comes from. Does it come from somebody we've left behind, a place like being homesick, another life? Is it some kind of I call it DNA imprinting, it's like a lineage thing that imprints on us. I don't know. What do you think that is?
Well, none of us are actually from Earth. We're born here and we're incarnated here, but we came from
Yes.
somewhere else first, and we
Yeah.
all intuitively know that. So when we feel like Earth's not our home, it's because it's not.
Mm,
When our time comes to transition, we'll go back to spirit form.
mhm,
And I do believe there's plenty of different realms in the world of spirit. I
mhm.
don't know if we end up going back to the exact realm that we originally came from, but we do go back to the spirit world, which is more of our home. So I think that when people talk about that they're missing home, it's that place that we all came from, that place where we experience love on a tremendous level that
Mhm.
I don't think many of us experience here. It's
Yeah.
that level of acceptance. And also on the other side, we do have different guides and angels that we work with, and it's different than here because over there we can see them just as easily as we see each other,
Mhm.
as we see other humans here on this physical realm. And so when
Right.
we get to the spirit world, we can see those spirit beings easier and communicate with them easier. And there's a comradeship that is actually, I think, very hard to find here on earth at this time. Now, I don't know if family units and communities were ever as healthy as people make it sound like, because when you look through history, there's always been a form of oppression. And so I don't
True.
think that ever went away. I think it just changed. I think it
I
changes
agree
throughout
with you.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
agree with
so
you.
we end up becoming oppressed in different ways, whether it's through religious or
Mhm.
finances or social status, whatever it is, it always exists. It just changes its mask. And
Mhm.
I don't think that exists in the spirit world. And so I think that people right now are so hungry for connection. I think we've always been hungry for connection.
Yeah.
And in that connection also comes out of that desire to be accepted and loved for who you are.
Mhm.
And that's very difficult because we are all insanely flawed.
So true.
and and
Yeah.
you might have a day where you say the wrong thing to your best friend or whatever, and that ends up being the straw that breaks the camel back, and you have no idea, and now you don't have that friend anymore. So there's a lot of
Mhm.
experiences that we go through here in this world that's very confusing. And then on top of that, you have to deal with just the maintenance of life, like brushing your teeth every day so you don't get gum disease, and making sure you get enough sleep
Eating
and eating
substance
and
and
pooping and all the things, all
right.
the things. So it's exhausting being human. And on the other side, we don't have to worry about mortgage payments or any of that. And
Right.
so when people are missing home, that's what they're missing. They're missing that space where there isn't this much stress and where there is true love and acceptance, and you can
Mhm.
just be yourself, and everyone's fine with being themselves. So I think
Mhm.
that's what it is. Like, that's my theory. We just all miss
Right.
being there.
Right. There's a lot of talk in the chat about angels on earth. Do you think that, like Amelia said, she goes, I believe angels step into people and do these like amazing things. What's your thought on that?
I think that I don't know if angels I think that angels can blend with people's
Mhm.
energy and
Right.
kind of work as a team. So I don't think it's I don't know about angel possession exactly.
Right. Right.
But I do believe that they
Maybe
can
incarnate
blend.
into human, like into the human body. Do you think some of them, bad naughty angels, have to come down and take care of the
You know,
flock?
I've heard of the incarnated angels thing before, and
Right.
I'm not sure if I believe that. I'm not saying it's
Okay.
not possible. I'm just saying I
Okay.
don't know if it is. And the reason for that is because I do believe that angels are in a different celestial field than other spirits are.
Right.
And when I've connected with angels, like, first of all, when I connect with them, I know I'm not seeing the whole thing. I know
Right.
that they have to mellow everything out because they are powerful and they are
Yeah.
high vibrating and they are just enormous beings. I
Mhm.
don't know that a human body could contain the
Such an
spirit or the essence
energy.
of an angel
Right.
without combusting.
Right. Okay.
um
We'll go with that.
so So
Right.
that's why I say I know that they can blend energies because I've felt angel healing energy before, and I've worked with angel healing energy, and it's really
Mhm.
phenomenal. I really enjoy working with it. And so
Mhm.
I know that they can blend energy, and I think that they can blend to where it's overpowering enough where they can work with you to do something
Mhm.
miraculous.
Right.
But then I also do believe that angels can just show up in any form they want whenever they need to do whatever is required.
Right.
Um, so, I mean, there's a lot about these beings that we don't know. Like, we don't even really know what they are.
This is true. Well, I was going to bring you to another question, because religious people will tell you angels are angels, demons are demons, fallen ones, creation of the creator.
Yeah.
But if you talk to a ufologist, for example, they're all aliens,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, demons are archons or reptilians or draconians. And then you have angels who can be Palladians and
Right.
Andromedans and,
Right. Yeah.
thoughts.
I think there's truth to all of that.
Right.
I think we're all getting doses of the truth, and we're not
Right.
going to know what that is until we cross over. And even when we cross over, we may still have to search for some of it.
Right. So they
But
don't even cut you a bit of slack after that, eh? They scrub you anyway. You're never allowed to remember anything.
this is
Aliens
true.
or freaking angels. So when you get over there.
Well, I mean, it makes sense that angels and demons or whatnot would be aliens because they are alien to us. They're in another,
Yes.
they're in another dimension, or that they're at least in a different space and time. So I mean,
Mhm.
technically, just by that alone, they are aliens. Now, do they really come from these different planets? Do they come from a
Right.
different realm? Are they both one and the same? Like, who
Mhm.
who knows?
Right.
I don't know, but I think that there's truth. I think that there's truth to all of it.
Right. Right. I agree with you. I think it's good to have an open mind about it.
Yeah.
Okay, look, Chris, here we go. Hello, how are you? Wait, long one. Yep. I see shadows. I see orbs. I hear, I'm going to say, I don't know what that is. Sorry. It goes out of time. I've seen my husband, great grandmother. She was transparent. It was only for a split second, and then I wasn't able to see her again. Sounds to me like, and hello, I see I'm just going through your chat now. This is the one I actually wanted to address. What about seeing demons almost look like a lizard with scales, midnight blue? It was mocking and vanished with a prayer. So, do aliens care about prayer? Which goes back to that. I don't know. Is it something biblical that is affected by prayer? Does it have to do with intention, mindset? What is it exactly?
I think that it's the energy that you're projecting out. And then
Mm-hmm.
also what's amazing about this testimony is that okay, so she saw a demon that looked like a lizard with the scales. What she didn't see were the angels that were protecting her from that thing. And so what she didn't see was all of the guides and everything that were still around her. So when she
Mm-hmm.
said that prayer, she was also making a statement to those angels, to the intelligent source that's out there, like, hey, get this thing out of my house.
Right.
And they listened and they did. And maybe this thing left on its own. Maybe it saw all the, to Chris, what would have been protectors to the demon would have been bullies, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not staying around for this. I'm not going to get my ass whooped. Like,
Right. No, it's true. Like we're good. We're good.
yeah. So
Gonna
I
push
think
my like angel powers all the way out there. I'm all
that's
right.
right. So I think
Right.
that when you pray, you're taking responsibility for your own intentions, and you're also giving the universe and your angels and everyone permission to act on your behalf.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that there's a lot of things that happen in the spiritual world that we don't see. And so I mean, this
Mm-hmm.
would have been a form of spiritual warfare because there was a entity there that was not welcomed and not wanted. And
Mm-hmm.
the good thing is that it left. The good thing is that it did leave. Um, but
Right.
yeah, it's always interesting when you come into situations like that because it is like, what the hell, man? How'd you get it?
Right. Right. It's like what? I know. Who left the door open? I know.
Right? I
Wow.
staged this place. What?
Dave, Michelle, and Nicole, and ideas about who I'm going to say Ta actually is. Well, that's Egyptian, and he's a creator. And if you ask me, he's probably extraterrestrial.
I think so too. I
I
think
agree.
extraterrestrial.
Okay, there we go. It's decided. So it's been
The
decided.
all powerful Michelle and Nicole have spoken.
Yeah. No, I really do believe he's extraterrestrial. I believe a lot of these people, or
I think a
beings
lot of the
were.
gods are, yeah.
Oh, for sure. I mean, they come in, people emulate them, they build monuments to them, they
Yeah,
want to be like them. It
right.
just it stands to reason. Amelia is directing this one to us. Do you believe we incarnated from other dimensions like star seeds, light workers, angelic realm to save humanity? I think possibly. I'm gonna leave that to you, Angel Lady.
I think that there's so many different reasons why people incarnate that it's hard to give just one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a beautiful idea that we came here to heal the world, but that's also a big responsibility. And heal it from what? Heal it from
Mm,
what exactly? Because we keep reincarnating back here.
right.
We're the ones doing the damage. Like if we weren't here, the earth would be fine.
So what you're saying is we're just not getting this right.
The earth would be
So
fine.
this is like a
So
prison planet. What is this?
I don't I
Just
don't know.
cycling back.
Weird.
It
But oh, go ahead.
take it a step further. Do you think we can reincarnate, or I mean, who says it has to be planet Earth? Do you think we can incarnate in other bodies
Oh,
and
yeah.
other planets and other systems?
Yes.
Thank you. There
Yeah.
we
We
go.
absolutely
Okay.
can, and we do, and we do. So, like,
Right.
when people talk about reincarnating a lot or looking at past lives, a lot of times they're talking about their past lives as a human, but what does come up in
Right.
past life regressions are alien lives that people have lived before. And that's happened to me. It was
Okay.
actually quite creepy and freaky. I was like, what am I?
Really?
I
What?
don't
That's crazy.
know.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, I was very tall, very thin. I was translucent. I had these long, like crazy fingers, and
Hmm.
I was translucent, but also had like this reflect. I don't even know how to
It
describe
sounds
it. It
like
was
to me like a
really
tall
strange.
white.
It was really cool and very strange.
Right.
But getting back to like why people incarnate here, the
Yeah.
message that I channeled once, because I was I was pretty pissed at life one time, and I was like,
Right.
what the heck? What is the purpose?
Mm,
And one of the things that they told me is one of the reasons we incarnate here is for mastery, to
mhm.
learn how to master something.
Right.
And so part of the healing of humanity may not necessarily mean that we have to go out and heal anyone other than ourselves. There's something that we came here to learn that we need to overcome personally. We need to
Mm,
get mastership over that thing.
mhm,
And so I think that we come back here to consistently elevate based on the choices we make, and to get to that point where we feel comfortable with
mm,
the decisions we're consistently making, and
mhm,
the way that our choices are affecting other people. Because I think that when you take good care of yourself, and you're not doing that in a way where you're stepping on other people's toes, and you're
mhm,
not belittling anyone or hurting anyone else another way, then by example, you kind of are healing humanity. When you take care of
mhm.
yourself, I think that energy kind of pours out into other people too. Plus, you're also modeling how
Right.
to behave, the right way to behave and act in different situations. Um,
Mhm,
so that's what came through for me, is that we can
mhm.
incarnate for mastery. We're here to learn some
It
type
is
of mastery.
evolution,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
It's
Yeah.
a form of evolution. We just
Mhm.
try to better ourselves, enlighten ourselves to a point where we don't have to keep coming back here.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
with that being said, I have to do a station ID. So otherwise I'm gonna be out of a job. Okay.
We don't want
So
that.
to anyone who's just coming in, you are listening, of course, to The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and the lovely Nicole Antoinette. And we are fully sponsored by Folgers Coffee. So I'm just gonna put that right up there. Folgers Coffee.
Mhm.
We love you a whole lot. And Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, who is an award-winning composer of Halloween horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music. We are on United Public Radio Network 105.3 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We are basically on 8 different platforms right now. So I'm not going to go through them all. You guys know the drill. All the familiar faces in here. So with that being said, we're going to get right back to the important stuff, being our guest. So I wanted to get up here Trish Moe. Now, Trish is one of our other hosts on the network from the radio show The Missing Piece. I hope I got
Mm.
that right. It's a new show here. It's a good, great show. Red winged angels are the seraphim of protectors. Seraphim, basically, you hardly
Oh,
ever
okay.
see them. That's the thing. You hardly
Yeah.
ever see them. They're apparently, to the right
Way
hand of
up
God.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but thank you for that. And Michael Angley was in the chat room tonight. He's with Discovery Paranormal here on the network and the Red Pill News. Take the red pill. Just saying. I know. And we have Amelia Pisano for some crazy show called The Outer Realm. She's in chat tonight. So, but okay. So I'm just want to kind of back up a little bit. I thought this is very cool right here. I agree. I had an angel that appeared in my living room, no less. Looked like a man, had long, thick, blonde, curly hair. Sounds nice. Dressed very modern and spoke a message to me. Do you want to share with the class what the message was? You can't just leave us hanging like that. An angel message and he'll leave us the message. So, um, and going back to Lucas, who's actually Kelly on her son's account, but she said her 9-year-old is very intuitive and made a comment. Here it is. What kind of a 9-year-old comes out with this? He told his mother,
Wow.
Earth is hell. And then he said, Hey, Mom, did you know the universe is in us? You're 9.
Yeah.
this. I know. It
Wow.
sounds like an old soul to me, to come up with something so that's pretty profound, really,
It
especially
is.
for a 9-year-old. It's pretty
Yeah.
enlightened. So, what do you say to people who want to get on this path? Why don't you tell us a little bit about guiding echoes and what guiding echoes is? I introduced you as a force behind guiding echoes, and what is it? And if people want to communicate with angels or what they should or shouldn't do with their psychic kids, tell us, is this all what you include in this amazing project of yours called Guiding Echoes?
Yes, so Guiding Echoes is the name of my business. It's also my YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram handle. So you can find me. You can stalk me there at
No, no, no. You,
any of
you
those
just go, girl. You go,
YouTube,
girl.
Facebook, and Twitter. Um,
Because we've had people mentioning a reading and stuff. So just, I want you to give that information too, so you can do that in private.
Okay, great. Yeah, so my website is guidingechoes.com. So,
Right.
my passion is really teaching people how to do all of this on their own.
Right.
One of my big passions actually is my latest course called Embracing Heaven. And so, Embracing Heaven, I teach people how to connect with their loved ones on the other side, even if they're not psychic, even if they're not intuitive, because you do not need a medium to do this. And
Hmm.
so there are different methods that I stumbled upon and that I channeled that have been working brilliantly for people who desperately miss their loved ones who are now in spirit. And what's so encouraging is that when you have people in the spirit world, you can continue to have a thriving relationship with them. You don't have to grieve them all the time. You don't
Right.
have to say goodbye. You don't have to let it be the end. That relationship can continue. The dynamic has changed because
Hmm.
they're no longer in physical form. And there's things that you're always going to miss. You're always going to miss the fact that you can't give them a hug and that you can't, reach out and touch them, and that, if the sink is clogged, they can't unclog the sink for you.
Right.
There's just
Right.
so there are limitations to it,
Right.
but there's different ways that this is expansive too.
Hmm.
And one of the things I teach people to do is how to make that connection on their own without a medium, because that can
Hmm.
get really expensive there's plenty of people who form an addiction to mediums when they lose someone because they don't understand that they can make
Absolutely.
that connection on their own. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and so many people have taken this course and it has changed their lives because they're able to continue their relationship with their mom, with their husband, with
Hmm.
their child. And it really is life changing, because they learn to trust the information that they're getting. Because when you first start out on whether it's a psychic path, or you're learning how to connect with your loved ones on the other side, there's that little voice in your head that's always saying, "What if this is just my imagination? What if I'm making this up? What if I just want it to be real?" And
Hmm.
so, as you learn how to connect with your loved ones on the other side, they will give you signs. They
Hmm.
will give you validation. It will happen. And so, that's one of the things that I teach and that I offer is how to keep that connection going on your own.
Hmm.
The other thing that I offer is called the Psychic Gym. So for people who do want to learn how to connect with spirits and they do want to enhance things like mediumship and their clairvoyance and clairsentience, and maybe they want to learn how to read tarot.
Hmm.
The Psychic Gym has it all. And so that is my membership site. We
Right.
offer weekly interactive classes
Hmm.
where we go through a guided meditation. We may learn a new technique. We split out in different breakout groups, and then you get to practice with someone else. You get to practice doing readings, and the way that you learn is by doing. Just like the way that you learn how to play the piano is by doing. The way that you learn how to play baseball is by doing. The way you learn is by doing. And so, Psychic Gym gives you a safe environment
Hmm.
to practice, to make mistakes. No one's going to get mad at you. No one's going to think you're a fraud. No one's going to demand their money back if
Right.
you get something wrong, because you're going
Right.
to make mistakes along this path, and you need to be in a community and a group of people where it's safe to do that, and where you continue
Yes.
to get encouragement even when you get things wrong sometimes, because we all get things wrong.
Right.
The goal of a medium or a psychic is not to be perfect, it's to be as good as you can be, and
Mhm.
that's all that you're asked to do.
Mhm.
So the Psychic Gym also offers all of my online courses as they come out. So I do have a course on tarot for beginners. I
Mhm.
have a course on strengthening your clairvoyance, and we also talk about the different clairs. So it comes with a lot. There's a lot
Right.
in that one. So
No,
that
that's
is a
great.
yeah, that's a monthly membership. And then for people who are like, I just want the free stuff, then you have to check out my YouTube channel,
Right.
youtube.com/guiding echoes. I release videos every Monday. Sometimes I will go through seasons where I need to take a break because YouTube can be exhausting, but for the most part,
It is.
it is.
I've subscribed, just saying.
Yes.
So
So it's every Monday.
right.
And there's different topics and different methods and whatnot that we'll dive into. So as Michelle was mentioning earlier, I have done different videos on angels and angel signs and angel numbers.
Mhm.
The past 3 weeks I was focusing a lot on connecting with your loved ones on the other side, how you can do it when you're not psychic. We talked about the different signs, the most common signs that loved ones will give you so that you know they're still there. We talked
Mhm.
about the most common messages that come through during psychic mediumship readings.
Mhm.
And I've even dived into different topics like, are you cursed? How can you know if you're cursed? Because
Oh,
sometimes people are like, my life sucks. Am I cursed? And
this is
yes,
true. Yeah.
you might be. You might be.
It's
Um,
true. Yeah, there's a lot of that. I get a lot of messages about that.
yeah.
It's a thing,
Yeah.
right?
So, we talk about, well, what is a curse? Is a curse what we've been taught to believe it is, or is it someone else? Is it something else? Can we curse ourselves? Um,
Mhm.
in fact, I'm planning on redoing that whole series later this year. Um, so basically my passion is being able to inform and equip as many people as possible so that they have the tools, the
Mhm.
method, and the information that they need to
Mhm.
forge their own spiritual path and determine what is right for them. And as
Mhm.
someone who grew up in a very religious and oppressive home, I know how important it is to be able to follow your own heart
Mhm.
and follow a spiritual path that makes sense to you. Even if it doesn't make sense to anyone else, it doesn't matter. It
Right.
just has to make sense to you. And
Right.
so it's okay if people don't agree with some of the stuff I say on my channel. It's okay if I don't agree with some of the comments that they leave. What's important is that we're
Mhm.
all learning, we're all
Mhm.
growing, we're all asking the right questions, we're all taking time to consider the what ifs.
In a
That's
safe
that's what's important.
environment,
Yeah.
right? Right.
Yep.
You offer a really safe environment, which is just,
Yeah.
something for everyone and nobody judges and
Right. Yeah, the moment that there's someone acting like a jerk in the
right.
groups, in the comments, anywhere like that, they're
Mhm.
booted. They're
Right.
gone because
Right.
it's not tolerated. So,
Right.
yeah. So again, if and of course I do offer mediumship readings as
Right. There
well.
we go.
So,
I know I saw a couple of stuff come up or something come up in chat. So
yeah,
I
so
just
just
want to make mention because some people really they need to know,
sure.
how their loved ones are or
Right.
connecting. It's important.
It is. And so for mediumship readings, again, you can visit my website at guidingechoes.com. Click on the
Mhm.
Work With Me tab that is currently on the top right corner of the website. And that
Mhm.
will take you to my page where it talks about the different services that I offer. And you can order a reading there.
There we go. There we go. So now to the parents. We don't want to repeat the cycle that poor little Nicole had to go through.
Yeah.
So, for parents who have gifted children, whether they're strict or open minded, what's the best way, in your opinion, to deal with something like that? What's the right way to, because kids, let's face it, they can be the teller of tall tales.
They can.
Right? Like you don't want to scare them, but at the same respect, you don't want them going out into left field with something. And then, so
Yeah.
What's your advice?
I think the best thing is to always just listen and affirm, because even
Mhm.
if the child, a young child at least, is making up tall tales, well, it's real to him or her on some level. It's something
Right.
that she's come up with, it's something that he's imagining, or maybe it's a real experience he or she is having. So being able to create that space where a kid can talk about whatever is on his or her mind, I
Mhm.
believe is going to be very important, because kids need to be able to talk to someone, and kids always want to talk to their parents. You know,
Right.
they always want their parents to love, to trust, and to respect them. You know, kids are
Right.
young, so they don't know to say to their parents, "I want your respect." But it
I
is
was like,
something that they want.
"What?"
Yeah.
Yeah. What do
It
you
is
mean?
it is something that they want. They just don't know how to verbalize it. They don't understand what
Right.
respect means. And so
Right.
when you're able to nourish that in your children, the first thing is that even if it's not something psychic, even if they just have wonderfully, beautifully active imaginations, you could be encouraging the next the next director or big Hollywood producer. You're
Mm.
nourishing their creativity. And so that's always a good thing to nourish anyway.
Mhm.
And if it does come out later that what they're seeing is real, I think that you're going to know. I think that you're going to get to a point where you know if your kid is making things up or if what they're saying is sincere, because of
Mhm.
how the stories repeat, how maybe they start to change. Um, and I think that you'll start to experience things in your home. I think that something will happen where you'll start to get
Mm.
a red flag, or there's just a knowing in your gut. You know, I think that good parents
Mhm.
have that intuition when it comes to their kids. And so when their
Mhm.
kids are telling them, like, hey, I saw this little girl playing in the backyard, if you get some type of sensation from that,
Mhm.
and you know that was probably true. You know that
Right.
was true because you got some type of intuitive hit off of it. So
Mhm.
again, I just think communicating is so important. You know, talking to your kids are so important. And if your kids are seeing things that are very scary, recognize that that is, whether you believe they're seeing this or not, recognize
Mhm.
it's real to them, and get a trauma counselor involved, because or get some type of a therapist involved, because there's something going on with that child, whether it's real trauma from something they're experiencing, from
Mhm.
seeing something scary, or they're
Mhm.
going through something else and this is how their imagination is dealing with it. Like, they need to be able to have some type of adult that they can talk to, especially
Mhm.
one that'll know how to handle that type
Mhm.
of situation. Um,
I think it would be a great little thing to do on YouTube, or doing a little private consultation with a parent and a child, like from your end, to help advise or counsel. Because I've worked with many children, and where I found the problem lied with them was the parent made them feel foolish for
mm,
saying, "I have an imaginary friend or my little friend," and the child just didn't want to open up beyond
yeah.
that point. And of course, I only work malevolent cases, and super active in it at one time. And a lot of times that child wasn't necessarily a child. It was a mimic,
Mm,
something portraying itself as a child. And kids are, let's face it, they're easy to manipulate. So
they
it's
are.
easy for something, any kind of an entity, even a human entity, a human spirit to come in and bully. And if you weren't a nice person in life, sorry people, you're not going to necessarily be nice in death. And that point the child withdraws.
Yeah.
So this has ended up becoming really big issues in some of the families I've worked with. So mentoring and working with kids are, in fact, there's Amelia right there. I love mentoring gifted children. It only benefits a child. Yeah. When the
Yeah.
parents are on board, 100%.
Yep.
100%. So while we still have time, there's another question from Kelly. Is it normal for the dark night of the soul through the spiritual awakening? Did we sign up for this? How do we get out of this? It's depressing. I want out of this. This is like,
It is
The present
depressing.
moment. Right.
It is depressing and it is hard. And what it boils down to is taking responsibility for your energy. And that's not something anyone ever wants to hear. So we'll
Right.
talk a little bit about what that means. And so I think that when you're taking responsibility for your own energy, you have to start asking yourself, what does love look like in this situation right now?
Mhm.
What does love look like in this situation right now? What
Mhm.
type of love do I need? Because if you're feeling depressed and if everything if the walls feel like they're caving in on you, because I'm getting an image of that right now of this person being in fetal position and the walls like coming in and it's just like this very dark, hopeless situation, then the thing to start asking yourself is what type of compassion do you need right now? What are you telling yourself? What's your self-talk?
Mhm.
And it all starts with that. And when you're and I'm not promoting positive affirmations. I think that you have to get to a certain level sometimes before those work.
Mhm.
I kind of started my own thing where I call them basically what were they um basically helpful statements, helpful declarations. What would help you right now? What do you need someone to say to you right now? And say it to yourself. So
Mhm.
right now you're going through the dark night of the soul, you would tell yourself, this is really hard, this sucks, but I'm strong and I'll get through it. Or you might even say, I feel weak, but I'll be
Mhm.
better tomorrow. It's gonna get
Right.
better. You know, all dark seasons end. This is coming to its end, and I'm gonna be fine. So you find different ways to talk to yourself like that, and taking responsibility for your energy, really for your life, also looks like, what does your home look like right now? Does it
Mhm.
need to tidy up? Does it need to get cleaned up? Are there things
Right.
that you need to throw out? Are there relationships that you need to cut? Because all of this stuff does drain us.
Loose ends.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Um, so, just start doing some, spiritual maintenance. Um,
Mhm.
and I do think so much of it is our inner talk and how we're allowing other things to talk to us. There are
Yeah.
people who, I've talked to people before and they'll tell me about their spirit guide and how their spirit guide is talking to them. I'm like, I don't think that's a good guide. Like, you need to fire that guide. You need to ask for a new one to come in.
And get the
Because
scowly guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, any spirit can come through and call itself a guide.
This is true.
Yeah, they can pretend that they're all knowing or that they're there to help. And
So maybe that's another good question. How do you know the difference? Especially if you're a newbie. How do you know?
yeah. So the way that you know is through the interaction you have with them. Like, are they
Mm.
making you feel good? Are they making you feel stupid? Are they making you feel empowered? Are they
Mm.
asking you to do things that are unethical? Are they talking you into, stealing a candy bar from the store and telling you that it's an empowerment exercise? I mean, I don't know,
Right.
but
Right. Right.
but
This is a test.
this is a test. So,
Mm.
helpful guides are always going to be loving towards you. They may be direct, they may be very
Mhm.
direct, but what they say is honest, it's truthful, it is meant to help you. They're not going to ask you to do anything that is harmful to you or others. I don't even think they'll ask you to harm even a blade of grass.
Mhm.
They will want you to act in the best interest of yourself and of others. And they will
Mhm.
also encourage your spiritual growth. So, I have one guide who will remind me, who will get on me if I haven't meditated in a while. And, and so that's a guide that is looking out for my spiritual health and my mental well being because meditation is good for me. And
Right. It's
sometimes,
like your booking agent.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
right.
And, your
Right.
guides want you to succeed at certain things. And so there are things that they may ask you to do, which are hard to do. Like if they recognize that you have a friendship that's not
Mhm.
good, they may ask you and encourage you to cut it off, but they'll tell you why, So
Right.
a bad spirit guide is someone who wants to they're abusive. So they go through the same cycle of abuse that a narcissist or sociopath will, where they
Right.
isolate you, they make you feel dumb, they belittle you. Like that's
Mhm.
not That's not a spirit guide. That is a sociopathic spirit. That's what that is.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Note to self, do
Right.
not talk to that spirit.
Do not.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot. And I think sometimes people just want that experience so desperately that they'll take whatever they can get. They
I
just
agree.
don't think about, like, this makes me feel uncomfortable. Maybe this is something I should shy away from. So it might be the only experience they feel they're ever going to have.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Right. And sometimes that experience is better than none at all.
Right.
So, okay, well, I think that's awesome. It sounds like you have a whole melee of good times on your site. So, oh, here we go. One sec. Trish, I find myself recognizing the lessons they tried to teach me through situations, even with my own kids, and that's when it clicks. Yep, absolutely. It's hard because your guides will try to give you lessons. It's funny because, I've had a lot of friends. I've worked with incredible mediums throughout the world. And the one thing that comes up a lot is you don't listen. I was like, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Sure, I do. No, apparently I do not listen at all. And, I just missed the boat on a lot, according to
You're
my
like,
guides. They're very frustrated with me.
I listen. I just don't want to do what you're telling me to do.
See, I'm with Nicole on that. It's not that I don't listen. I'm selective. Selective hearing.
Yes. I just do what I want to do. I
Right.
listen.
See,
Come on.
Trish says, I get told that a lot. Okay, good. I am glad I'm not alone. And Amelia says, mine drink too much.
The thing that I get tired of hearing though is this is a lesson. I'm like, I don't want another freaking lesson.
I know. It's like, what is this? You're supposed to
It's full
guide
of
me.
hard
You're not
knocks. I
supposed to
know,
boss me around.
right?
I know. Like I said, I've been pretty good with my guides. It's just except for the scowly guy, which
Right.
I always go back. I was very insulted when I thought it was pretty funny, the comment I made at the time. And my friend sitting with me is going, he's just scowling. I'm like,
Well,
it was bad because it never left me. I was pretty bitter about it. Like, why do I have to have such a freaking stick in the mud for a guide? Come
well, it's
on.
just one of your guides.
He is, yeah. I've been
One.
told I've had a
Yeah.
few. Thank gosh. And they're very patient. I'm that meme where that little angel's pushing that person's foot saying, come on, trying to guide them, push them in the right
Right.
direction. That would be me because I'm just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Amelia says, one of mine is so sarcastic. Oh, we'll get to. Hold on, it's moving around. Okay, one of mine is so sarcastic, it's exhausting, right? Okay, last question. Absolutely. Go ahead, Kelly. Whenever you're ready. Okay, I'm just going to be putting that together. So, what do you have as we're nearing the top of the hour? What do you have coming up for this year then, or the next upcoming few months? What's on the docket for Nicole?
So one of the things that I'm working on is creating a spiritual protection course. So
Ooh, that sounds exciting.
yeah. So I had a workshop that I taught on that and everyone really liked it. So I'm looking at turning that into a class. Also wanting to offer more things through the psychic gym. So at some point, right now we're meeting once a week, Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern. But my goal is to get enough people in there and also find a couple other good teachers so that we can actually have classes every day, so that there is a live class available every single day. Because I know that Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern don't work for everybody.
No.
And there are people who would love to go to class more than once a week.
Yes.
And so I'm hoping by the end of the year I can get get us to have the classes of some type of psychic development every day.
Mhm.
So, I mean, right now, and then I've got a podcast that's launching soon. So
Oh,
I want
God.
to,
Okay. Tell us
yeah.
about that.
Well, it's I'm hoping to launch it in March, and I say hoping because March is kind of around the corner
Right.
already.
Pretty much. I think you got pretty much 2 weeks.
Yeah. So
We're there.
yeah, so I already have interviews set up for that. But anyways, the name of that is going to be Psychic Confidence. And it is
Ooh, I
all about,
like it.
yeah, all
I
about how
like
to
it.
enhance your confidence as a psychic. So we'll have different people on there like pet communicators, mediums, energy healers. And I'll also open up with a segment where I answer a question from the audience. So if
Very nice.
anyone listening wants to send me a question that could possibly be answered on my podcast, you can send that to asknicole@guidingechoes.com.
Very nice.
And yeah, so again, that'll be launching in March, and I've I've already recorded I think like 4 or 5 interviews with different people, so I just need
This
to,
is good.
yeah, so
Honestly, you should message me because I mean, we're over 200 shows now, and we have a lot of people who fit that bill that I would be happy to put you in contact with
that would be fantastic.
if you'd like to. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, like all sorts of that stuff.
that'd be awesome.
Good, we're gonna do it.
Yes, I
I
love
mean, Amelia, does he need a network? Yeah, actually. Our network's always looking. And
it.
we have like, millions of people too. So it's just really good. Just a thought, food for
Well,
thought.
message me. We'll talk about it.
All
We'll talk.
right, we'll do some jamming. Okay, now
Yeah.
where is it? Hold on. Okay, this was that question. What about new babies coming in? My 8-month-old is on a different level. What, than the 9-year-old who's telling you the universe is within you? Pretty sure they're both on some kind of crazy level that is pretty amazing.
This
Okay.
is something that has been coming up recently in readings where there are babies being born, these little infants, and they somehow seem more intelligent and more alert, and more, I want to say, cognizant of their surroundings than well, I want to say than just other babies. And so this is something that's been coming up more in readings. It's really interesting to see that
Mhm.
cycle. So I do believe that there is, this is going to probably sound weird, but we'll go with it anyway. I feel like there's a new type of light seed or indigo child. I don't think there's a
Oh,
name for it yet,
I'm gonna
but
validate you in a minute.
okay. Yeah, there's
Not
there's
weird at all.
there's a new something, and there's no title for it yet, but these children are coming through and they are highly intelligent and highly sensitive, so they're both. And
Mhm,
they are going to function on a level that is unlike anything we have ever seen. And I do
mhm,
believe that we've got some new, I want to say, almost new ascended masters that are coming in. So these are new prophets that are coming in.
mhm,
And as infants, they are going to be very, very different. And
mhm.
they're the type of kids that will self isolate, not because they don't like other people, but because they're actually fine in their own company.
Right.
And I think that they're interacting with the universe consistently.
Mhm,
And so that's what I believe is going on, just based on what I've channeled, what I felt,
mhm.
and the different things that I've been hearing from moms, who are, I'll do a reading for someone and I'll tap into their 7-month-old kid who's still
Right,
alive and
right.
tell them all about this like enormous little kid. But in my mind, I'm thinking this is a 5-year-old, and they're like, "No, he's only 7 months." I'm like, "What?"
No, no, not inside, right? So
Right?
no. I have to tell you, I had an elderly man that came to me, 2, 3 years ago because he had an attachment. And his assistant is the one who messaged me because of the light work. He did a big light worker, but a planetary worker. He only worked with animals, whales, dolphins, the planet. We could
Oh, okay.
rearrange. He taught me how to rearrange, like move ley lines and do all kinds of things. It's just phenomenal. But one thing he said to me 2 years ago, and he said, there's going to be a round of children coming in. He goes, these souls have never been here before.
Yep.
these souls are going to be incredibly gifted. It's unlike anything anyone has ever seen. And it goes, it's already started. He said, I was just like, wow. And he doesn't mess around. Like he's always very cautious about what he speaks about. He's an older man. He's
Yeah.
not interested in fame, fortune. He keeps himself very quiet. He does unbelievable work. But when he said that, he goes, you have indigo children, you have crystal children. He goes, these children are going to be,
This is new.
yes.
Yep.
He goes, like nothing anyone has seen ever. He goes, and you will be able to notice them because they're going to be exceptional. And I thought, wow. So when you said that, my skin kind of just tingled, like, okay, there's validation for both of you, I think. So wowzers, and I'm pretty sure, like, I have a family member whose little one is very much like that, just gifted little person who's 2 years old and does these amazing things. I just sit there
Yeah.
and like, what?
How?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely, totally agree with that. Okay, Trish Mo, I've been trying to find investors to build schools for these children because it's very difficult for them in regular schools. You are right on that. You are right on that. So I think you could do something, Nicole, on your site, even as a parent-child thing, parent of gifted children, working, coming on with their kids and doing something, because you have a really unique way and you're just so bubbly and bubbles. But it's so you are though. It's just your energy, and I
Thank
think
you.
that you could draw that out and really teach somebody and make it fun at the same time.
Well, yeah, I try to make everything fun,
Yeah,
actually, when it comes to learn, especially psychic stuff, because it's like if it's not fun, you're not going to stick to it. Like if you hate it, you're not,
yeah.
you're not going to stick to it. So,
No, it's true. But some people who just don't know really how to deal with their children, and
right.
if this next round of whatever they are, 5-dimensional, 6-dimensional, or density
Yeah.
beings are going to be coming out full throttle. The guest last night said something along the lines of that scrap DNA that we have.
Mm.
He mentioned a child in China that they had under lock and key because his abilities are so unbelievable
Wow.
that they just don't know what to do. Like living, existing in the world as it is very difficult. So if this is what's coming, I think there's gonna be a lot of guidance needed.
Yeah. Well, I'll make a note and think about it and
Yeah, it's let me get. I'll be your
look
agent.
into
I
it.
don't get out of the way. Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to be calling me every day. Are you working on it? Are you working on it?
I
Hey,
know. What
Nicole,
are you
you
doing
working
right
on it?
now? What are you doing right now? So, yeah, but we definitely will have to communicate, because I'm really sure I can connect you with some awesome people who are of like mind, and everything you just talked about for your new podcast. I'm sure you could just get a really great lineup. I
Yeah,
can.
sounds great. Thank you.
Happy to. So one last time before we have to say goodnight, how does everybody find you? Go, go, go.
GuidingEchoes.com is my website. You can also find me at youtube.com/Guiding Echoes on my YouTube channel. And then, of course, on Facebook and Instagram, just type in Guiding Echoes. And
Mhm.
and also be on the lookout, because on Instagram, there is a huge issue with psychics cloning the entire profile of other psychics and impersonating us. So I've got 2
Oh, great.
impersonators. Yeah. So
Oh,
just yeah, it's pretty awful, and they're scamming people. So just remember,
oh,
Guiding
okay.
Echoes, it is spelled correctly. There's no dashes in the name. There's not an extra S. It is Guiding Echoes on Instagram.
Okay. And the
Spelled
new
correctly.
podcast is supposed to be coming out beginning of
In
March.
March. Yes. Yes.
Sometime in
So
March. Could be end of March.
it might
Did
be.
we?
I've got a lot of editing to do. Got a
Okay.
lot of editing.
So
Yeah,
they
and
should
that's gonna be
watch
called
out for
Psychic
that.
Podcast. Or a Psychic
Okay.
Confidence, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for joining. Amelia's in chat, but thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah,
And
thank you, Amelia.
yes, it was a whole lot of fun. And maybe we can actually do this again sometime.
Yeah, I'd love it.
Okay. It's a date. We'll do it. Perfect. All right. Let me get my intro. I got to say goodnight to everybody now. So thank you. And I will be in touch with you, lovely lady.
Sounds good.
All right, darling. Well, we have come to the end of another super fantastic segment here on the Outer Realm. Amelia's been in chat and she's just been a busy little bee. So big thank you to everybody who's in chat. And you guys are just awesome. You make it so much more fun. Huge thank you, Nicole Antoinette. Definitely delightful. So thank you for being here and joining us. Please remember, guys, to stop by the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. Don't just subscribe, become a member and get to see a lot of whole awesome content that you're not really going to see on the regular channel. Sorry, you're just not. Big thank you to Folgers Coffee again, who have been with us since day one. Because of you, we are still here and we are still going strong for you. And thank you to Dr. Snick, aka Justin Snicker, for providing us with your voice and your music for the intro and the outro. So find us on the Outer Realm on Facebook, show us some love, give us a follow. If you need to contact us, I get so many messages in a day. Please, please, please just go to the Outer Realm contact at gmail.com, the Outer Realm contact at gmail.com. For next week, Wednesday, we've had a quick reschedule from a guest in Scotland who you all know and love, but unfortunately, reschedule. So I promise you, however, we will have an amazing guest for you as always. Thursday evening is one I have been really looking forward to. We are thrilled to bring to you for the very first time, Mr. Brad Olson, who is the author of a very popular esoteric series, Modern Esoteric, Future Esoteric, and Beyond Esoteric. And oh my gosh, I've been reading it and all I could say is, wow, I think this show is going to blow a few minds. So you're not going to want to miss this at all. Don't forget Joe and I on the Gray Zone Uncensored this coming Saturday, 5 till 7 Central, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern. The only place you will see the archive is on the member section of UFO Paranormal. So if you want to catch it live, that's the only chance you're going to get. So have a wonderful, fantastic weekend, people. We will see you here next week, and we love you, and all of you behave.
You have been listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live every Wednesday and Thursday evening, 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 to 10 p.m. Central, on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.